when we're done,
What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here with King of Pressure Wash, and tonight we got a fun couple on here. We got Quiet Dan and I don't know what about Lindy, but we have two amazing guests on here tonight. We're going to learn their story, how they went from part-time, and Dan just did the big jump this week or last week, or he's in the jump right now of quitting his full-time job. And so we'll talk about that process. We'll talk about how they've been doing this for how many ever years. They've done over $400,000 in a single year doing pressure washing and Christmas lights, and doing it while having a full-time job. And so those are some issues and topics that we're going to hit on. Dan is amazing at knowing his numbers and budgeting and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we'll hit on some of that. Obviously, we got Dustin in here that will do, he will talk also about some of those things too. So that is what our goal is tonight. So before we get started, I want to hit on one thing. I'm going to start doing a product of the week. So if you want a product or learn more about a product, let us know. We'll hit on it more. But for tonight, we're going to talk about the one and only the best clip. This is the best clip. This is how we are able to install lights on gutters. It is how we install lights on roofs. And this clip here is amazing. It will last you a long time. They don't break. And basically, you just have the clip. You put the bulb in, maybe if I don't drop the bulb, and you put the bulb on the light. And this is how we are able to clip this here. So this is the best clip. And I'm going to give it a Dustin a few minutes here to talk about why the best clip is the best clip.
Yeah, so the biggest thing about the best clip, what makes it, I believe, best out there is the plastic. There's a lot of enclosed clips, but when we developed that plastic, I did a lot of testing, and we found out with the plastic that we use with all the other clips out there that our plastic does not go bad. So you can leave it in the sun. And we have some clips on some places that's been in the sun south facing in Utah for over 3 years, and they're still not brittle. So in our testing, we have the best plastic, and that's pretty much one of the things that makes it the best. The other thing that I like is that has the little end on it that has, and a lot of people copied us after, the little thing that it gives. So basically, you can put it under shingles, and it stays in the shingle really good. But a lot of them do that as well. But again, the number one reason to use the best clip is that plastic. It does not go bad. I have asked several people that have, we sell millions of them a year, and I have even found one person tell me that it's even broken once. So they don't break on you, and they last forever. So this is just another thing you can tell your customers, that you use the best clips out there that do not break. It just makes you stand up a little bit better than your competition.
So you can use this on, I know some people ask the commercial buildings, and so you have the metal flashing that goes up there. And being that this plastic doesn't get brittle, you can actually take these and bend them over. So then that way, when you stick it up underneath the metal, it will actually stick to that metal pretty well also. So this is another way that you can use this clip. I know some of the other clips you can do this too, but this is a way that it will even make it tighter on when you're talking about commercial. But obviously, most of the time, we are going to use it this way here and go under shingles, go on gutters, and they don't break, they don't get brittle, and they work really well for the best clips. So before we get started in here, we got some people that I always like to see who's in the audience. We got Mr. Tristan, Lucky Lindy. We got Dan Bezos, also from Mr. Tristan. We got Daniel, Daniel from Virginia. Dan the man. Paul Gardner, best couple in the business. We got Brian Fletcher, Maddox family, and Jason and Dustin, best couple in the business, is what he put there. So what's funny is everybody that's commenting, we see quite a bit in these groups and stuff. So that's the awesome thing. So let's get this show started. So Dan or Lindy, probably one or the other, whoever talks up the fastest. What? How did you get started in the pressure washing Christmas light business? Tell me a little. Tell us a little bit about your story, because we know that every story is where you want to learn all the gems from.
So we started pressure washing in April. Well, we started the business in April of 2021 with the idea that if we just made like an extra $1,000 a month, that would be a life-changing amount of money for us. I had a good job, but we just wanted to pay down some debt that we had and be able to start building a bigger nest egg and really improve our future. Little did we know that here a few years later, we would be doing significantly more than that, and not only pressure washing, but washing, and that led us into Christmas lights to try to fill in the winter time. Um, and like you were saying earlier, we just moved into doing this full time. So we've been doing this part time for the past few years with some really great success. And most of that we have to attribute kind of to the support that we've had from you, Jason, Dustin, Paul Gardner, and a lot of great guys and gals in the industry just being willing to share their success and how they did it. I mean, the easiest thing to do is find somebody who's successful and just kind of repeat it. They know what works, and we can't take much credit for it other than just following the process.
So I met Dan, probably what, 4 years ago, actually in person. You came to one of our in person Christmas light classes.
Yeah,
And
that would have been 2021.
and at that class, that is when you all started to learn how the importance of premium pricing. What was the trigger? Obviously, when you first started doing this, what you, Lindy, let's go this way. In the beginning, how did you all get customers, and what did you find out different that works better now, basically?
So, I think we kind of went the cheap route because we didn't have a budget. We didn't have money, so we kind of went the cheap route and did just Facebook and those groups and social media platforms as free as humanly possible. And like you always say, yard signs are a good way too. So we kind of went that traction, and I slowly started to see who was our clientele little by little that first year. And then by our year two, we really kind of honed it in as well. So it was a challenge in the first year just because you don't have pictures, you don't have designs and stuff like that. So you do have people that are kind enough to let you help them out and they give you some photos, or you do your own house. And that's what we did. We did our house and took that and posted it up and tried to market that. And a lot of people liked what I wrote, and it resonated in a lot of the groups that I was in. I think that's a big factor. And I did it every day, twice a day for weeks and straight through the entire holiday season. And I kind of became pretty relentless with that our first year. So,
So one of the things that I know Dan always says he regrets. What is the one thing that you regret not doing sooner, Dan?
he's going to get you to admit it
Just
right now.
starting. Just starting just thinking about it right now makes me sick. I mean, we've lost probably $400,000, if not a $500,000 of revenue because we waited a year to start. Because waiting that year is just it would have our revenue curve would have just started increasing that much sooner if we would have just started.
Yeah.
So once you started doing Christmas lights, obviously you do a lot of Christmas lights. What what is the thing that has helped you grown the most out of everything that you've done?
Thinking outside the box, in my opinion. I think I saw this thing that basically said if you're everybody's so focused on what everybody else is doing instead of what they want to do, instead of thinking outside the box. So there's a lot of people that have different ways of running their business and how to make it successful, but you have to decide how you want to run your business and make it successful. and what works best for you. And I think for us, it's thinking outside the box of what everybody else is not doing and doesn't want to do. And so that's kind of where we have found better success is the hard stuff, you know? So, and that means staying up late and doing the hard work and putting in the work every night after you put your kids to bed.
You mean it's not easy? There's not no easy button?
I was just gonna say that there's no easy button. Like it's at first we were always trying to find the easy button, like how can we get a shortcut to success? And it's just putting in the work. Like the success is in the daily grind, like doing what you know you need to do, just doing it over and over and over and over again. And maybe that hundredth time you do it, it's successful. Maybe that thousandth time you do it is when it hits. But you just keep doing it day in and day out.
I think you have to humble yourself too. Um, you you have to humble yourself to know that you don't know it all. And I think that's why I've always appreciated your lives and stuff like that because you do learn a lot from the lives and even your group that you have because there's always something to pick up. You don't know it all. Even when you're making $1 million, you don't know it all. You can always learn from someone else. And I think that's where you can falter in your business is when you don't humble yourself to take other people's guidance who knows a lot, you know. So
Yep. No, and I would agree with that 100%. Is you do have to humble yourself that you don't know it all, you know, and that you can grow it. You know, like we said last week, even Dustin don't know it all. He's got 2 million incandescent bulbs. AKA, if you ever need any incandescent bulbs, Dustin can hook you up with as many as you want. About 2 million of them. So
That joke's going to go around for years before
Here they're making a
it's going to keep
comeback.
going until the day I die. I
someday
know.
you might sell them all out.
I know one of your listeners might actually want to buy them all for a movie or something. We'll see. But I can attest to Lindy. I've been getting to know Dan and Lindy the last few months, and the thing I like about them is they kind of have a balance of listening to people that know what they're doing to a point, right? But then also making it their own, like having a little spin. And I think a lot of people I talk to are a little afraid of doing that. Like they second guess themselves and say, should I really do this? This is kind of what my guts tell me, and usually your gut's right. So you kind of want to do what is working, but you can always do something a little bit different. And that's usually all you have to do is just make it a little bit different, have your service a little bit different. I was talking to a guy at one of our trainings, Eric, and he has Santa Claus. He's very successful in Idaho, and he has Santa Claus. He partnered with the Santa Clauses in his area and has like a Santa Claus package. I'm like, that's brilliant. And there's so
yeah,
many people he charges it for that. And then he has the Santa Claus actually schedule everything with the customer. So it's not a big thing for him to do. And he makes a little bit of money, but the biggest thing is that magic that Jason always says too. It brings out that magic and just these little extra things that people aren't doing is really what makes all the difference, I believe.
yeah.
So, as you've grown and as you've learned and as you've failed, what are some things that you've learned from your failures?
To get back up and keep trying because that it's probably not the time that it's going to work. You just keep trying, and the next time it might work, and you just keep going. You just have to be relentless in pursuing your dream, and you have to make a big enough dream for yourself that feels like it's unattainable, and just constantly keep pursuing it.
Yeah. I think Daniel said something a while back that really kind of resonated with me, Daniel Walsh, that you're going to have amazing success in a lot of moments and great moments. And then there's going to be times when you just completely flatline and you have to be able to be okay with that and figure out what to do and how to not make those flatline. But there are going to be moments where it's really tough and you don't want to do it anymore and you're exhausted. But those are the times where you can either decide to keep going or you can decide what do I need to take action on to not let this happen again or how can I make this better for next year. I also think it's one of those things that it's meant to happen. It's meant to create thicker skin for you. It's meant for you to be the next chapter in your story. So when you look back on it, like Dan and I always look at back at the first year and be like, wow, I can't believe we were so excited to just make $1,000 a month, and now we're doing 60 to 80K a month solid. So it's just, and that's kind of our norm now at this point. Um, so you have to kind of enjoy those times too, actually.
Well, and I was talking to Jeremy Main about this of your wins, and when you hit $100,000 a month, it ain't nothing like hitting a $10,000 a month. I think a $10,000 a month is way more exciting than $100,000 a month,
Yeah.
because when you hit $100,000 a month, you look at it and you're like, where'd all my money go at anyway? But in reality, that $10,000 a month is more than what most people make in almost a quarter of the year. So that is a huge thing to hit that $10,000 mark. Even like you said, Lindy, the $1,000 mark is a big thing, even when you
Yeah.
hit that. So
Yeah, I agree with that, Jason. I remember when we hit our first $5,000 a month and our first $10,000 a month and our first $20,000 a month. I was a bit surprised when we hit our first $60,000 a month because I didn't even know that we had hit it until after the month was done and I was going back through the books,
And then
looking
he's
at
like, you need to
everything.
close more. You still need to close more.
so let's talk about, I always talk about, there's the two hardest things to do is one, start the business, and or one is to quit your full-time job, and two is get off the truck. And you're kind of been doing both here lately. So um, me and Paul, I know, have been on you for a long time about quitting your job, and you'll blow up even more. Let's walk through that journey and the feelings and emotions that you've had to go through with losing that security blanket of going full time.
More than anything, it's just a sense of relief. It's probably something I should have done a long time ago. It so far, and I mean this is recent. I haven't had any real negative feelings, or there's been no real downside to it yet. That may come in the future. I don't know. But I'm kind of enjoying being a full time entrepreneur now. So it took a big load off of me having to juggle both our businesses and a full time job.
And
I
how
also
has
think it
that
was a lot. Oh, sorry,
go?
Jason.
How has that affected the family life by you quitting the full time job? How will that affect that?
I think it's going to be a lot better just because I don't have another 40 hours that I have to give to work. Um, I mean, we can probably run our business in 40 hours a week or less. We've been doing it for years now, running it on less than 40 hours a week. So I can actually spend more of my focus on the business and more focus on the family, on Lindy and the kids. And I'm assuming I'm going to have a better outcome from it because my focus is going to be uh, more on fewer things.
Right.
Yeah. I also think too, it's we always wanted it to be our goal for Dan to be off the truck and stuff like that, which is kind of what we've been working already towards. And we knew that as soon as he was going to quit the job, that was literally the next thing that was going to have to happen, because in order to stay consistent and really grow, you have to be off the truck. I mean, you just have to force yourself to do it no matter what. So I think in finding a guy that can do that. So, test out, hire a bunch of guys, or just try one guy out and see how it goes. Bring another guy in, interview them, see it, and then pick between several guys that you've tried out. And then that can be the guy that you potentially want as your lead to be running a truck, and then have the other one as an assistant. That's kind of what I think has worked for us, and we've really found that getting Dan a break and being able to go to more meetings with other people and companies, as well as walking other job sites and things like that. So that's another big thing that he's been able to do, because we've been having our guys out on the field doing stuff at this point. So it's been really good. But we did that in intermittent with him about to leave. So I highly recommend too. What we also did was planning our finances. We're pretty OCD about our spreadsheets. I love them. And that we planned it out for a long time that this is how, when was the right time to do it. So I think that was good. Also calling our CPA to reaffirm that we're good to go because he's amazing. So that's a good mental thing to do for us. I thought was just to be like how, because it is a big transition to not go from that income, and how to you properly spread that money out when you are in a slower time like January and February, and how to properly spread that money out. That's a challenge when you get into your slower months. So where do you put that money in responsibly is a big thing I think that people struggle with, and I wanted to make sure that was not our pitfall at any point. So,
And Dustin, if you got any questions, you can ask too.
Well, it's actually you guys are bringing up some good memories for me because there was a time, and the difference between I think us really is I fortunately got started a lot earlier than you guys, and that does help. I believe I think these young kids don't realize how much easier it is when you're younger to start a business than when you get older because now you have family, you have a lot more bills to pay. I remember when I started my first business that I started was a window washing business, and uh, I everybody kept telling me to go get a real job, and at the time I was 22 when I started, and I'm like, oh, what, are they leading me wrong or not? So I actually listened to everybody's advice, and I went to Home Depot and worked there for a year. And I thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't wash windows, maybe I shouldn't own a business. But you know what it did? It made me realize that I did want to own my own business. But I was really scared too because at the time I was going to school as well, I was going to be an eye doctor. And then I just thought, well, I might as well have the consistent income right now working for Home Depot, and then I can maybe make a lot more money. But that was actually really hard for me because the other thing is I was going to be getting married, and so I had the pressure for my in-laws, like does my daughter really should be marrying someone that just washes windows? I had all that pressure, it's just a window washer, and I kind of feel bad for people that because for me, I guess my pride was struck because I was just a window washer. And so I was like, man, I'm going to do something bigger and better. I'm going to eventually be an eye doctor, but I can still be successful here. And so it was kind of hard for me. But what I realized was once I quit Home Depot and I ended up not being an eye doctor and I went full time, like what Dan's doing, just, he started a week ago. That's when things started really, because I was like, I'm going to put all my effort into it. Like what Lindy and Dan saying, like, let's put that 40, 50 hours a week into this business. And then the rest of the time with your family, right? Friends and loved ones. So, and that's obviously hard to do, but I don't know too many people that ever want to go back once they really commit to it.
yeah.
It's only 40 or 50 hours you put into this business.
Well, I mean, when I first started 40, 50, now double that, but I was still young. Yeah, back in the days, right? So I was enjoying a lot of different things, but yeah, I think someone, especially with the Christmas light, it's crazy with Christmas lights. It's pretty unique because if you work really hard, I actually know quite a few of them that work their butts off during Christmas light season, and they take the rest of the year off, like 8 months of the year, and they go travel the world. I have employees that do that. They make a lot of money with me, and then they go travel the world. So, and they just, you know, do their thing. So, it's an incredible thing with Christmas lights. I don't. That's one thing that I keep going back with is the Christmas light. Is I don't know anything like that just gives you that much cash in a short amount of time. And I think a lot of people are already telling me our business as well is starting to really pick up for a lot of people. So I don't think there's a lot of people are talking, is it going to really slow down because of the elections and all that? I mean, I'm not seeing, especially this week. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people interested in Christmas lights again. So I think we're going to have a big year again for the light season.
I agree with
Yeah,
you. I think
I
it
agree.
is.
That's what we're seeing.
And I
Yeah,
think
we're
that
seeing it really well.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody I'm talking to, that momentum's because a few months ago, everybody was like, "What do you think?" And you don't really know for sure, right? They're like, "It's going to be a crazy election. You don't know what's going to happen with the government." But I remember going through the recession the first time around, and I was scared to death because with Christmas lights at that time, we had just barely started our Christmas light business, and I really wasn't making a lot of money. My wife was still working, and we just got ourselves into a home. And I was like, wow, 2000, I don't know if everybody remembers that. You guys might be too young, but 2006, 2007, when the housing market crashed. And you know what's crazy? That year, we did so, it was kind of like what COVID did at that time. A lot of people, I feel like a lot of people in downturns, like they still want to be able to have that excitement for their kids, and they put a little
Mm-hmm.
extra money towards Christmas because the rest of the year is like, what do you look forward to? So it just kept going. So I've actually never seen any decline in Christmas lights. So it's pretty robust. It's incredible. It's one of those industries that are pretty amazing. We're actually hiring a few different positions now, and I see a lot of people are looking for jobs now as well. Which again, a couple years ago was like that, but with the Christmas light industry, it's just still, I believe it's still going up. It's a great industry to be in.
Jimmy Dudley asked the question, how large are your crews to hit these numbers?
It depends. Some we've had up to 6 to 8 people during our heaviest time, and then when we start getting a little slower, we let people go. I mean, it's kind of as simple as that. You got to rip the band-aid where it needs to be ripped. So at times, so we've done that at times, but when we're pretty busy right now. So, uh, but we spread
And
out our crews pretty thin.
So,
and
so
I
I'll
would
say it a
say,
little bit less harsh way than Lindy says it. We hire our Christmas light crews as temporary seasonal labor. So everybody that
Yep.
comes on board for Christmas lights knows that this is a job that we're gonna keep you on from the 1st of October through the last day of January, and that's what it is. There's an opportunity for work after that. If you're a rock star, if you come on and you just knock it out of the park, like we'll find work for you next year, pressure washing, window cleaning, the rest of the things that we do. Um, but a lot of the guys, they know that they're going to move on then too. So
Yep.
yep. And so, um, I think
And
this
price
is an,
high. Price high. That's it also too.
let's talk about that. Um,
Jason
obviously,
always goes out. I like this is like Jason's favorite subject. He just look at he just lights up like a little light bulb. He's
this
like,
is the
price.
most important
I,
thing of it all right here is how to price high.
I love when people talk about price because every time I notice, it's like, ooh.
So obviously you have a lot of competition in Charlotte, right? You're not just the only people doing Christmas lights in Charlotte. And you're probably one of the highest prices in Charlotte. What's your average ticket per house right now or last
so
year in
our
2020?
residential average ticket is $4,336.
How much?
$4,336.
So it's not $99 or even close to it.
I won't get out of my chair for $99.
So tell me, how do you get these prices?
I let Lindy do that.
You find your avatar. You
Yeah,
find your
they
avatar.
zoom it.
And what do you mean by what is an avatar for people that may not know
So
what an avatar
yeah,
is?
I think it's finding where your pocket is. It's the stuff where you're talking about where you look at the heat map and find out where your clients live that are going to close those kind of jobs for you. That you can close those jobs, and then you sell them on the vision of beautiful and the potential of it and how you're excited about it and how it's going to look stunning for them. Also, you know, responding to their phone calls. I mean, I answer emails, texts, everything within less than 5 minutes, if that. It's probably more like 30 seconds a lot of times with my clients. And I think that also plays a factor when you're doing these big clients that we deal with. So yeah, that's the reason. And last year our average ticket was I think 26 something.
Yeah,
So it wasn't.
it was
So
just
we've
over
doubled it this year
2,600.
alone. Um, so we've already made more than over 25% of what we did last year with less clients, basically. So Um,
And
So we've actually closed 50% of what we did for the entire year last year already this year. And so far we've only closed about 20% of our client list from last year. Most of them tend to sign up later in the year. Mid October is kind of the sweet spot for them. So we're well ahead with a lot of new customers that are spending a lot of money.
so tell me how you get these customers. How do you get these customers that want to pay you $4,500, $4,300 per house, or
they don't want to pay
$2,600?
44. They want to pay 10,000. I'm not asking for 43. I'm asking for 10,000.
So
Um,
obviously, to get them to pay 4,300, you got to ask for 10,000, so that way they're willing to pay the 4,300. And that sounds like a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's some of our lower tickets as a 4,300. But I think it's doing the different social media platforms, your Facebook, because you don't know who's on all these Facebook groups. Sometimes there are people. Obviously, I'm a LinkedIn person, so some people on LinkedIn, especially for your commercial side, could be that way too. We do door hangers. You name it. We do some Facebook ads. We test run Facebook ads, about 4 or 5 of them out alone, just to see how they're doing well ahead of the season. That's something else to do. And we prepared all this stuff in the beginning of January and February of this past year. So then we could order all the stuff before the season was even ready to go. And I think that's all about preparation. Whereas last year, I was kind of behind the power curve on that, or I think we would have closed more. So this year, I didn't mess around. So I think that's part of it is the door hangers, yard signs, all that stuff, especially yard signs. I don't think people realize how much those are a moneymaker in itself. I landed a $23,000 client off a yard sign.
But
Um,
Lindy, only people you get
so
off yard signs are cheap door knocking people. You can't get $20,000 off of a yard sign.
you
That's
can if
marketing
you put it
smart
in the
there.
right spot. That's kind of how that
It's all
goes.
about
If you put it in
location.
the right spot, it's
Yes.
all about location. Yes, that's it.
You guys are perfect. You guys know your audience, and that's rule number 101 is to make sure you know who you're targeting to, right? You're not targeting to the college students or the people that just got married and they don't have any income for Christmas lights. You're targeting those people that see the value of putting up Christmas lights and see the magic in it, and those that have that money that they think it's like a great deal. I would pay for that, So everybody needs to know who they're targeting, and you can target whoever you like. If you want to be that person that you want to target, you know, middle America, you can do that too. It just depends on who you want to target, but obviously go for the people that feel like this is a great value to them, because even rich people are cheap. But everybody, including those that don't have as much money, if they see the value in it, they'll spend a lot of money. If Dan, if I told you I had say I had a business truck, brand new truck that's worth $50,000, and I'm selling for 10,000, really is, you're going to buy it no matter what, right? Because the value is 50,000.
Yeah.
But if it's, if they feel like the value's not there, you're not creating that value. And I know that you guys do a really good job at creating that value that customers can see that, man, this is worth the $4,500, So I think you guys do awesome at that.
Yeah, I
Um,
also found a loophole in some design options. Like we use paint for our design options and stuff like that, and I think that's a good way to do designs. And that was a quick learn that I learned from you, Jason, was to get estimates fast by using paint. And then also using Canva is another good way to do designs too. If you don't have the budget, I'm as cheap as they come in some ways where I don't have to bleed money, and that's one way to do it is using Canva to do your designs as an option too. If you don't have it in your budget, it's a really good way to do it.
yep. So one thing Patrick asked, where do you get most of your leads from? I don't know if you heard him say, but they do a lot of different things. There's not like one thing that they do, but where do you probably get most of your leads from?
So most of
Um,
our profitable leads come from yard signs.
yeah,
That's
Most of
yeah,
most of our unprofitable leads come from Facebook.
Agreed.
Uh, Google ads are kind of a mixed bag. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but most of our leads come from yard signs.
Let me rephrase that. Facebook ads do not get us
Yeah.
leads very
So
well. Facebook groups will help get you leads. Facebook ads is a different ballpark of getting good leads, actual quality leads. Um, but yeah, I think that's been our best way is through different avenues and stuff like that. And we networking with other companies. I mean, just talking to other companies and offering our services to show them our display, and then they see that and then they're like, "Wow, we'll share you with the other people that we know." I think that's also smart too. You do a storefront for someone, and they're willing to share your design. If you're that detailed and that great with your follow through from start to end. That's the biggest thing is being good with your follow through from beginning to end. If you're only good in the beginning where you close it and then you install subpar and then your end where you follow up and say, "Hey, how did you like the service? We're here to call and make sure everything went well. Did you love it? Are you happy with the season?" Things like that. You have to also call them during the season and make sure they're still happy with what they got. And I call my clients and do that with them because we don't have 100 clients. We have, 60. So it's not hard to call 60 clients because our average ticket is high, so I'm not calling 400 clients. So stuff like that, you have the time if you make it. And then they feel special. And then you remember a person that last year told you a story about their spouse that was going through chemotherapy, and you send them a message this year and say, "How are they doing?" And they remember that stuff, and
As long as they
that's
don't
what
say,
they.
well, they died.
Yeah, that would be. Well, we knew he was doing better, but it was still. But at the same token, it was, she appreciated that we. She said that was the best service she had last year. She couldn't believe that we went out so fast to her house and stuff. So I think it's also that too.
So one of the things that I like to hear, because right, I know Dustin's big on systems, and this is a system that a lot of people aren't good at, of the follow up, the making sure, and you're like a pit bull on these things. Like once
Hmm.
you get someone on you, once you get on to somebody, you don't let go of them until they give you everything that you can. And so, as that pit bull mentality, you do this as soon as you get the quote and you see them open it, you're calling them, aren't you?
I'm calling them, and then I usually do the design within less than 5 minutes a lot of times. And if it gets so busy, they're getting it within the hour. It's not the next day, no matter what. I don't even wait anywhere near that. And then I follow up with the text almost immediately after I send the quote because I want to know that. And or I'll also you have to find what your clients like. Some clients don't like text; they like email. A lot of our clients like email. So I'll follow up with an email instead of a text because that's just the way our clients tend to be is more email. So it is doing that, and then they're like, "Oh, I need to check on my stuff," and then I follow up the next day. So I just think it's being consistent with that. Is it time consuming? Yes, it sure is. But if you know the potential of what that I know when I look at a home, I'm like, this property is stunning. I can make it even better. And when they send me that photo, I know I can sell the a la carte to it. And then you go from there on upselling it when you're out in the field. And that's what Dan does really good at is upselling in the field. And then he closes in dish. I think we had so many upsells in the field last year alone for add-ons because they were blown away at how good what we initially quoted was, and then they were like, "I want to do more because this looks so good. Now I want to do this." And before they didn't want that, and then they did when we were out in the field. So I think that's also it too. But Dan is very attention to detail on what he expects from the guys that are out there installing and how it needs to be. And we just don't do subpar work. It's not shortcuts.
So let's, like I said, Lindy is a killer at Paul put on here. Dan, go put the kids to bed. Lindy's taking over. Let's talk about
I love.
a lot of times dealing with working with your spouse. And, I get this question asked a lot. How do you differentiate business from personal life so that you can have something other than business? And how, other than Dan just shuts up and let Lindy talk all the time, but how do you all handle the personal versus business lifestyle?
I'll let you take that on our a 9 year anniversary tomorrow, babe.
Making me
Dig
answer the
that
hard
hole.
questions. You get the easy ones.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's difficult sometimes. There's no doubt about that. It's difficult sometimes, but at the end of the day, we know that running our business the way that we want to run it and is giving us the opportunity to spend time with our family the way that we want to spend time with them, and build the life that we envision for the future of not only us but of our children. Um, so it we just sometimes have to put the business hats down. Like we'll go to dinner, somebody will bring up business, and I can't remember if it was me or Lindy the other night. One of us just said like no business talk. Like we were out to dinner and we started wandering towards business talk like we usually do, and we're just like no, this isn't business. This is something else. Like tomorrow's our anniversary, and we won't be talking business tomorrow evening. So
Oh,
it's
I bet you.
sometimes you just
I
have
bet all
to
three
set some guidelines and follow them. So
I
I
think
think
too, though, Jason Hefner said, oh, sorry, Dustin, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think you guys are like I look up to. I've never told you that about you guys working so well because when I first met Lindy, Lindy called me up out of the blue. Like you said, she must be that pit bull mentality because she called me
Yeah.
maybe January, February this year, and she mentioned like she never mentioned anything good about herself, but she sure mentioned a lot of good things about Dan. And I'm like, that's pretty incredible. And it happens all the time. Like she's always talking good about her spouse. And I'm like, that's pretty incredible because, honestly, with myself, it was really negative at the first. That was stressing because the difference between you two is that my wife didn't want me to own a business. Like she was thinking I was crazy. Like it was just a different mentality, and she didn't want anything to do with the business. And I don't know if other people have had that same experience, but she didn't want to talk anything about business. So I had to hold everything inside, but I would always talk to her, and she was like, I don't want to hear about business anymore. And it wasn't until like maybe 2 years ago that finally she broke loose, like almost 20 years of marriage. And she broke loose. And now she talks to me about business a lot more. Not a lot, but a lot more. And she likes it a lot more. I finally hit, I guess, I don't know why it took so long, but she finally realized that now we really do have a good life. Like she is in the business still, but she only works part-time with us, and she has a great life. And she finally, I think someone must have told her, one of her good friends, and she listens to her friends more than me, obviously. And so she kind of like, maybe I do have this really good life. So I really look up to Dan and Lindy because I know a lot of people can struggle. And like you guys, I like how you say there's tough times, right? Because my
Yeah,
wife,
definitely.
what she always says to me is when I say, hey, can you do this, she always reminds me that I'm not her boss. She's like, you're not my boss. So it's kind of, we have to like step on stones because nobody wants the other spouse to be their boss, right? And so it's one of those things that it's you have to work together good, and
I want to
then
hit on this because I want to hit a little bit harder on this, Dustin, because I know a lot of people struggle with this of
mhm.
their spouse not on board with them. My spouse was on board. She thought I was crazy, but she was on board when we did this. But talk a little bit about what are some things that we can do to help them get on board if they're not on board.
Tell me you'll have more kids. I'm just kidding.
Well, he's got
Yeah.
quite a
Well,
few. That didn't happen. That didn't help.
I think for me, was that I started. So what basically I think that for our division, because there was a time that, and I think it just slowly crept in. Like I loved Ashley. That's my wife's name, to death. I was chasing her like Lindy, and at the first, and then we were all in love and blah blah blah, and then got in the business, and she didn't really care what I was saying about the business thing or whatever. But what really made the wedge came between us is when I told her I really needed her help. So because she was a good wife, she's like, okay, I'll do that for you. But she didn't want to. She already had a really good job she was into fraud, for Wells Fargo, and was always excited. And I loved hearing her stories. But she investigated all the fraud cases at the time, and so I got her temporarily over. And then, because it wasn't really her choice, it made that wedge. So what I realized several years later is I let her run the way, and again, how she wanted to do. I didn't want to, like, I kept telling her, Ashley, make sure you do this, make sure you do it this way or whatever. And she didn't really want to hear it. So I realized, oh my heck, if I just let her loose, she's going to she's going to do a better job than me trying to micromanage her. Right. And so with her, it like basically let her shine. And then, her friends realizing, giving her some influence and stuff like that. So I think for me, how it switched, because now she, honestly, guys, she hated the business so much. Anybody that worked here, Jason says everybody's so positive here, but my wife was the only one that just did not like business. She did not. She just had this sour taste in her mouth. And it wasn't until I kind of let her just have her own freedom, just like, she's doing a good enough job, and she hadn't gotten better. And now, you know what, like we said, the last 2 years, we hardly ever fight anymore. And we were fighting a lot. It's always about the business stuff. We were fighting all the time about business. And we, honestly, it's taken almost 20 years, but we hardly ever fight. It's so much better. And, a few weeks ago, she's like, Dustin, this is like, we're like the happiest marriage since we were, starting out. So that was a really good accomplishment. So that's something that I helped us. I don't know, Dan and Lindy, how long have you guys been married? And, what do you guys do when you
Tomorrow will be 9 years?
10
Yeah,
years?
9 years tomorrow. 9 years tomorrow.
Yeah, 9 years tomorrow.
What do you guys do? What do you guys do when you guys have your moments too? What's something that you guys do?
So Paul said something really good. And like, there's actually two things. One I found from Jason Hefner, and he said, "Stay in your own lanes," which I like. So understand each other's lanes and stay in it, which was really it was actually really I like that, because you have to respect what each other's talents are, and let them embrace those talents. And that was something, your first year you really struggle figuring out what your strengths and weakness. Your second year you spend it trying to control each other's strengths and weaknesses and battling it out. Your third year you finally get your shit together and don't do that anymore. And I told you I'd spell it out.
You just had to
um,
spell it. You just had to get one in.
so, but you start to respect the fact that Dan is amazing at this, and I'm okay at this, and I do better at this, and we do good at that. And then Paul had a really good thing that he told us is, you have to time block time where you just cut out business, and so where the business doesn't define your marriage either. So that was something that Dan and I have really been trying to do a lot better of, especially when you just have another baby. So every Friday night into Sunday, we don't talk about business. It's just us. We pay attention to our kids. Our kids need to be a priority too, and they need to feel special and to know that we value them and they're important to us, and what they have to say is important. So from that time frame, we just don't talk about business. We like cut each other off and be like, no, we're talking about business again. And I think that has to happen, or you will wear yourself out in the business, honestly. And it will start to overcome everything, and there won't be that spark as much in everything else moving forward. So I think those are the two really good things. So again, it's learning from other people who gave us advice or said stuff that I asked those questions long ago too, and those were the things that they said, and it's always stuck with me, and I appreciate their knowledge on that because it's helped us.
So as we I know the marriage side of things isn't always the fun in dealing with our spouses, but I feel like sometimes people need to hear that because it's one of those things that can either make or break your business if you're not careful. And you can lose your marriage over it. You get so focused on business and you don't focus on each other. And you can lose everything if you're not careful. So it is
Yeah.
important, and I know most of us put God first and, then our spouse, and that's the way it should be. And so those are some important things that we need to look at and do and not forget those priorities. Our that should be business should be third on our priority list. And sometimes we don't always do that, and that can get us in trouble really fast. So, um, again, it's what I believe that can help you get way further along in your business if you do those things and put those priorities up first, so that way you don't lose those priorities.
It just makes
So,
your business that much more successful too. You know, if you're on the same page and you have that, your business is gonna blow up even more because you're, you know, Dan and I notice when our business is down, it's because we're butting heads every time, every last time, and I think that it shows, it reflects in that sometimes. So, you know, that too. Sorry.
so with this, a lot of people think that once you get to this spot, you know everything. Do you all still do any type of thing to keep getting education and keep learning?
Yeah, we read lots of books,
Dan does a lot. I listen to
and
audio. I'm
we
like Jason.
That is a great book too. If you didn't know, if that's a great book to
that's
read if you have not
that's
read
that's
that
that's
book.
why that's why I held this one up. I'm rereading this one, and then right now I'm reading this one again. Also, it's a classic. I've started reading it a few times a year now. We also invest in training, so not just in skills, but we invest in going to trainings that we may already know some of the information, but to network with others and to start building relationships. I've never spent money on training. Wendy's never spent money on training that we haven't gotten at least 10, if not 50 or 100 times what we paid for the training out of it, just in the relationships that we've made. Like we're sitting here talking to you, Jason, and talking to you, Dustin, because I mean we've spent money to get to know you guys, and
Yeah.
over time we've become friends. And uh, I mean, I don't know how I'm so lucky to call some of the people I call friends, that I get to call friends just from paying to go to trainings to get some knowledge to implement one thing, but then having somebody that I met that I can call and say, hey, what do you think about this, and just getting to know them. And that's one of the most valuable things. Is I forget who told me, it may have even been you, Jason, and it was that sometimes you have to pay to get into the room with the right people, and it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I think getting to the trainings was huge. I went, Dan went to a training before we even started Christmas Lights because we wanted to avoid bleeding money in areas that could be avoided. And I think that's where a training really also helps, is that it keeps you from spending money in areas that you don't need to, because you went to a training class, you got the knowledge, and you didn't have to spend money on everything that everybody else is telling you to do in different social media platforms. And so I think that was really big for us. So then when we went into our first year of Christmas Lights the next year, we really knew what to focus on a lot more because of that. And that's why I think we were so successful our first year part time the way we were. And then I also think it's the guidance that you get from these trainings. You know, I'm honestly, I feel really grateful for the level of knowledge and stuff I've learned from you, Dustin, and Paul. I've honestly, it's kind of crazy the amount of stuff I've learned, and I don't know how to reciprocate that back other than to say thank you. And we try to pay it forward to other people, not with that knowledge, you know?
And
Well,
that's the
oh, sorry. I just wanted to say something about Lindy because I mean, what's crazy is she's teaching me stuff like something that we were talking today, and she shared me a really great idea that I'm going to test out that's working really good in her market. But you can learn from everybody, and that's what you said, Jason. Like, I've been doing this a long time. I actually don't know too many people that's been doing it longer than me. I know a few of them, but there's not that many people in business as long as I have in the Christmas light world. And I had kind of a head start because in Utah it was really big before other places. So, but I go to the room, even trainings that we do with Jason. I'm learning from Jason, and I'm like, wow, there's just so much that we don't know. And I think Lindy said it earlier. We need to be humble and realize we don't know everything. and then realize where our talents are and where we need to improve at. So I usually, again, I'm a huge believer in the 3 rule for me. I try to do the most top 3 important things every day. And, you go to a training, try to implement 1 to 3 things and you'll be successful.
Yeah, I really like that tip too, because that was something that when you told me that, Dustin, I was like, that's actually really important because you may not, it's overwhelming to get everything, but then just focusing on like 1 or 2 things that you want to take and then bring back with you to fully do and implement will just make you successful. And I think that's a big key in it. Instead of the 800 things that you could do, just focus on 2 really key ones, and that's it when you come out of the trainings.
My brother, so I was lucky too because I had an older brother that was a millionaire at a young age, and he did everything different than my other siblings. He was the one that didn't get good grades in school and all that, and he was the one that basically owned his own business. But he told me, he said it's better to be like a laser where you can penetrate. He says just do a few things that you're really good at and you can penetrate. And I took that advice, and it's really helped our business, because before I was like, man, there's just so much stuff to do, and you're like, do I do this, do I do this, do I do this? And really you don't have to do that much. It's amazing. You just have to do a few things, and you're going to be way ahead of everybody else, because if you can do those 3 things really good, you're going to be ahead of everybody else trying to do 100 things, and they're barely scratching the surface. So,
And as long as you're consistent and relentless with those 2 or 3 things, you will be way ahead of everybody else. And
we always call it like doing the reps, right? Armando, one of my great employees, he's a baseball star and his son's in baseball, but he always calls it doing the reps. You just keep doing those reps. You do the throws every day. You do those few things that you just get really good. What Lindy does, she's just relentless every day, right? You answer the phone, you call them right back. You just do those few things. And look what, I was talking to someone a few days ago that know about Lindy and Dan, and they've been in business a lot longer, and they're actually doing more than this individual who's already pretty successful. So I think it's just because Lindy and Dan knows those few things that they have to do every day, and they're consistent at, like you said, Jason.
So one of the questions came up because we're getting toward the top of the time, is the bulbs getting loose. With these here, they got a little bit of play, so they won't ratchet out and loose. They also don't have teeth in there to help grab onto it, so it will allow that bulb to spin on there. And I've never had an issue with these getting loose. Now, not to say that when you drop these on the ground, they will loosen up when you're installing. You will have to make sure that they're tight, but that's just part of the good old game of it. So that's how that works. But the plastic on these are amazing. They won't break. They won't do any of that stuff. So we actually are going to be having a class down in Charlotte with Dan and Lindy that we will be having a class in Charlotte. It is in October. And if you want to go check it out, you can go check out christmaslights.io/IPT in-person training. Just put IPT, or you can go find the class down there. And the cool thing is when we have classes, like, well, actually, also there was someone, I don't know if you're still on here. If you buy the 4,000 foot pack or spend $5,000 at christmaslights.io, go there and spend $5,000. I will give you free. You can come to any of our free train. You can come to any of the trainings for free. Whether it's down with Dan, whether it's this weekend with Pink Pro Wash, Jeremy Main. We had them on Saturday or on Sunday in Indianapolis. So if you do that, that is definitely something that you can do. Also, next Zoom call next Monday night for lights. So also if you join christmaslights.io membership, you can get here and you get to meet Dan and Lindy every Monday night. That's the thing that I love about Dan is he's been in the membership for you've probably been in it for what, 3 years now, 4 years?
Yeah, we joined the membership before we even started pressure washing. So
Yeah.
That's been
good
4 or
planner.
5 years ago, and you've probably missed less than 10 Monday night Zoom calls. They're in there relentless.
The reps right there. See that?
So they're in there every Monday night, giving value, learning value, making fun of Rick. It's always a good time.
Love Rick.
but it's awesome to see people. And then you see people like Tristan in there, and Daniel joins, and there's all kinds of awesome people on that Zoom call that you can learn all kinds of stuff. And so that is a pretty cool thing. So go check those things out for see, I knew I could pick on Rick, and there the little mouse would come out. So there you can. He said he couldn't find the link for last Monday night when everybody was checking on him the other night. Is what he sent me. Actually, it was a pretty funny conversation. I would play it, but it would words like Lindy uses would come out of it, so I can't play it on the live. But it is
pretty good this
a
time
great
around.
a
I
great
did.
time. So that is what I would say. But before we get off here, what are some words of wisdom? And we'll walk around the room here, go around the room. What are some words of wisdom if you're just starting out or you might be struggling a little bit? What are some words of wisdom for people on the live tonight?
I guess I'll go first. One of the biggest things for me again is finding a mentor that really has your best interest. You know, I don't do any of the mentorship coaching or anything like that, but I've been blessed with having a few key mentors in my life that, again, my brother that's been a good example to me. He also told me, you know, a while back, he said, only listen to people that know that subject, what they're doing. Like if you have a heart problem, you want to go to a heart specialist. You don't want to ask your mom or your dad what to do, right? You want to go to the specialist that really knows what they're doing. And I'm a huge believer going to the expert, going to that person, because before, again, back in my days when I was struggling, do I do window wash? What do I do? I was listening to everybody and I was really confused. And I learned at a younger age that you basically go, if you want to learn how to make money, who do you go talk to? You go to talk to people that actually make a lot of money. You know, you don't talk to people that are trying to make a lot of money that think that they know, you know, or if your parents don't make a lot of money, they're probably not the best people to talk to. Now I go to my mom with a lot of the most important things in my life because she's normally right on most things. Um, and so, but if they're not successful in money, or if they're not successful in a relationship, why would you ask someone for relationship advice if they don't even have a successful relationship, you know? So again, simple. If you guys can just pick up that one thing and really learn from people that you want to, like Dan said, to repeat their business, repeat their success in your life. And if they really truly want that for you, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe know how to do it, but they don't want to share that what they, you know, what really can help them. But again, talk to people, talk to Jason. I love, you know, Jason. I've been a big fan of him since he started many years ago teaching people. And, he goes to these trainings with me and we do a lot of the trainings together, and I'm learning things from Jason. He really knows his stuff as well. And so again, I would say go to people that really have your best interest. And if you want to learn in that subject, go to people that really know what they're talking about.
Dan.
So I keep debating on what piece of advice to give. I think I would have to say learn how to dream a bigger dream, because you are amazing and you can do so much greater things than you ever think you can right now. You have so many abilities and so much capability that you don't know of, that the dream that you dream today is so small compared to what you can do. Learn how to dream a bigger dream.
I think mine would be grateful. Honestly, be grateful for the people that helped get you your first clients, and the companies that are giving you a chance to prove that your quality speaks for itself. I think that I always try to tell the people that we are partnered with, as well as the people that helped refer us the first few times when we first started, how appreciative I am. If we hadn't gotten those people, we wouldn't have gotten this client, and we wouldn't have gotten this person and landed this big company. And so I think you have to make sure you remember to be grateful for those, and also let those people know that too, honestly. I try to do that because in an instant it could go away. And so you have to be really appreciative of that too, because I'm blown away at the relationships we've built, and I'm honestly super grateful for the people that have allowed us to trust us that much, and especially some of our friends that uh, live right down the street and referred us to so many people just the first time, and they were our first clients. And then the companies, like I said, we built. It's been pretty amazing the partnerships we built but we've been grateful along the way, and I think you have to let those people know that, and you appreciate that, and giving us a chance. So I think make sure to be grateful.
Someone put, is Lindy a sailor?
I'm a Marine. Sorry, that's another brains below me. You got to go up one more.
I think they were going after something else of the sailor of the mouth. So
Language.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I didn't say any bad words, did
I
I?
know. I know.
You did a good job.
Proud of you.
My
We're
dad would be
proud.
proud right now.
You are good.
So again, I think that is some great words of advice from everyone. I think it is important that, kind of like what Dustin said, of finding a mentor, get around people. That's the cool thing about, like, when you come to these Christmas light classes. Our last class, there was a guy that did, commercial HOAs, does about 1.3, $1.5 million a year. There's guys that were doing turf there, and they do like $10 million a year. So you just never know who you might be sitting next to of a business minded at these trainings. And so,
True.
when you go there, and they're really cool people, and like they give you your phone numbers and you can call them, and they will talk to you. And, that is the cool thing about going to these trainings. Again, I got to meet one of the largest Christmas light installers in the country, or real close to it. He might not be the biggest one, but he's really close by going to a training. And so we got to, at the advanced training, we got to hear a speaker that speaks at TED Talks and do all kinds of cool things. And so that is what is cool when you come to these trainings, meet people, learn from them. Obviously, I'm going to give you what I can and help you in any which way I can. And just for a follow up, I actually had a Zoom call today with Odin, who I talked a lot about the other night. Sorry about that. This thing's probably going to keep going off. But that is how it's awesome to be able to keep growing and keep learning and keep growing. So with that, hope everybody has a great night. Thank you all for coming on. I got to fly in here. Hope to see you all later. And if you all want to hang out here for a second, and we will say good night.